past. It recognizes that we had a past which we should get rid of. And in trying to get rid of a turbulent past, we put up a constitution that spoke to a system of governance that was all impressive. Now, the system of governance that was all impressive had safety valves that would work to promote democracy. And these were the term limits, the age limits. And these safety valves, I think, according to the framers of the Constitution, were to ensure that citizens can continue engaging their leaders and ensure that they get free and fair elections, but that at a certain point we can have a transition of power from one leader to another without necessarily causing problems. And sometimes you hear our friends in the NRM saying, but we have always had elections. Yes, we have always had elections. Democracy is not about having elections or regular elections. It talks about having free, fair and credible elections. But since we went into the Constitution of 1995, we have never had free, fair and credible elections, because after an election, there are court petitions. And these court petitions have highlighted certain irregularities that we need to deal with as a country. And so we are gathered here today to see whether we can still contribute to the transformation agenda of our country, to see whether we can still contribute to the necessary safety valves that are needed for a better running of democracy, for a better management of our society, and we see whether the excess powers that the president has, we can find a way of trimming them. The president appoints the ministers, the president appoints members of the electoral commission, the president appoints the judiciary, to the extent that if you have anything against the president, you can't go to the judiciary and you think you will overcome. You can't cut, I know that the judiciary is also tight. You can't cut an arm that feeds you. They are appointed by the same president, so if you have a beef against the president and you take him to the judiciary, they will first think twice, who put me here? If Ugandans can recall, the current electoral commission that we have, one of the commissioners was emphatic. She said, you know, I am put here to ensure that the interests of the appointing authority are fulfilled. What are the interests of the appointing authority? To keep in power again and again. So here we are asking ourselves, even as we gear up to 2026, do we think that we are going to have a change in the way elections are conducted, or we are just going to have more of the same? So as citizens, we need to begin asking ourselves these questions and hold our leaders accountable. Ensure that the necessary reforms are made before we get even to 2025. It is still early. If these reforms can come now, we engage the citizens, ensure that we have the separation of power. The presidency or the executive is different from the parliament and the judiciary, because these are put there to ensure that checks and balances are available. But when you fuse them and put them into the presidency, then the essence of good governance goes away. So we again want to reiterate the fact that a good electoral process comes with citizens' engagement. But in a situation where there is no civic education, and that the political actors, when they want to engage, most especially those who are not in government, they will be dispersed, they will be tear-gassed. It doesn't guarantee that the elections will be free and fair. And so our demand is that reforms are put in place to ensure that the impunity with which this government does things is checked and controlled.